So Kyle Shanahan clearly not happy about the 49ers having to fly 16 hours to play in Australia. Today, the plot thickened. Shanahan and Matt LaFleur were guests on the Pro Football Talk podcast at the owners' meetings in Phoenix. And turns out that the Rams requested to the NFL that Shanahan and the 49ers have to lug all the way out to Australia. And the NFL obviously granted the Rams their request. And it has very, very clearly left Kyle Shanahan steamed. Maybe in a bid to make up for this, Sean McVay picked up the tab when all the coaches had their day drinking event today. This is from Jay Glazer's video. You see Robert Saleh, there's Kyle Shanahan. Matt Ryan sitting next to Kyle Shanahan. That was Michael Phelps, by the way, who lives in the Phoenix area. Michael Phelps crashed the party. And then here you're going to see Jeff Hafley, and you'll see there. That's Nick Sirianni looking for Sean McVay. There he is in the blue. Sean McVay picked up the tab, and it probably was quite expensive. Jay Glazer hosts these coaches' day drinking events every year to wrap up the owners' meetings. So there's Sean. There's another Sean. That's Sean Payton telling a story. And here's the man that we're talking about, Kyle Shanahan talking to Matt Ryan. Anyway, cool event. Saw Jay Glazer and all those guys at the party last night. Owners' meetings were cool, but this is this is already throwing some logs onto the fire of a great rivalry. The NFC West was the best division in NFL history this past year. If you just looked at the combined winning percentage of its top three teams, the Seattle Seahawks, who won the Super Bowl, the Rams, and the 49ers. And then, taking the desk today, you had Kyle Shanahan. Let's get him up on the stage here. I got to open up the screen. We have to share a window. And here you can see Kyle Shanahan with Matt LaFleur, and then obviously Mike Florio and Chris Sims, who are the hosts of the Pro Football Talk podcast. But what was, the beginning of this was this back and forth, and we're not allowed to play the video, but I can give you guys a little bit of an edited transcript. Matt LaFleur actually said, I'm pretty sure that the Rams lobbied for the 49ers to be their opponent in Australia, to which Kyle Shanahan immediately responded, I know for a fact they did. That's why it's so bothersome. And Kyle was visibly irked. You can go look this up. It is on YouTube. You can watch the replay of this. At points here, I thought that Kyle Shanahan was joking, but not until later. I think that he was dead serious about this, and so was LaFleur when he said that the Rams lobbied for the 49ers to be their opponent. Chris Sims, a few seconds later, butts in and says, so you think the Rams have lobbied because they're sick of seeing the 49ers dominate the crowd at SoFi? It's 80%, maybe even 90% 49ers fans when San Francisco plays down there in LA. And Shanahan said, I get that. That would suck to have to do silent cadence and have our home game at their stadium. So I get their ambitions, but they were rewarded that. And that is a 49ers trip to Australia to play the Rams. So by the virtue of the fact that the 49ers have to head to Melbourne to play LA, it's a home game for the Rams. The 49ers don't get to play the Rams at SoFi. Now, the 49ers do get to go down to SoFi to play the Chargers. It just so happens to be on the schedule this year. But one of the great advantages that the 49ers have in the NFC West every year, or almost every year, is that they have an extra home game when they play the Rams. And I think it was a huge factor last year when they went in with a skeleton crew and beat the Rams on that Thursday night. They're not going to have that advantage this year. I'm sure they'll still dominate the crowd in Melbourne because I've yet to find a Rams fan who actually exists in real life, but obviously it's not going to be the same type of advantage that the 49ers have in Southern California. Shanahan irked that the Rams requested for the 49ers to go down there, obviously as a way to sabotage the 49ers, and that the league acquiesced. Now we can go further into this discussion. Shanahan wants some retribution here. And Shanahan requested to the NFL that the Rams be sent to Mexico later in the season when the 49ers host a game in Mexico City. And Shanahan said, I'm requesting them in Mexico, not that it gives us an advantage, but it's fair to make them go out of the country twice too. Now, if this was awarded, and early rumors are that it's going to be the Dolphins and the 49ers on November 22nd, unconfirmed, but those are the rumors. So if those are true, then the NFL has not granted Kyle Shanahan his reverse retribution request against the Rams. But if this did come true, then the 49ers and the Rams would play 2 games this season, and neither would be in either of their home stadiums. One would be at the Melbourne Cricket Ground in Australia, and the other one would be at Estadio Azteca in Mexico City. 49ers will play in both of those stadiums. The Rams, in all likelihood, only one of them. Shanahan went on to say that the 49ers fan base in Mexico is awesome, which it is. The last time I was down in Mexico for a 49ers game was the only time that I had been down there for a 49ers game. 2022 season, 49ers whipped the Cardinals. I'd say 95% of the stadium there at Azteca was 49ers, pro 49ers. You couldn't really tell based on the colors because the Cardinals also wear red, but it was loud. They have those overhangs just like Lumen Field in Seattle over the crowd. So the noise reverberated back down onto the playing surface, and I was impressed with how vociferous those fans were down there in Mexico City. I'm sure more of them are 49ers fans than Rams fans. So the 49ers would have an advantage crowd-wise down there if they did play the Rams. That's probably not going to happen, and I think that there might have been a little bit of joking by this point in the show from Kyle Shanahan, but I will tell you that I don't think that there was any joking from Kyle Shanahan here, because Matt LaFleur set him up. He said, I'm pretty sure the Rams lobbied for the 49ers to be the Australia opponent. And before he even had a chance to finish the sentence, Shanahan interjected and said, I know for a fact they did. That's why it's so bothersome. 49ers don't get their annual home game at SoFi Stadium. Now, there are differing opinions on all of this stuff. Even amongst the 49ers themselves, the coach is never going to like a lot of travel, and this is going to be a 16-hour flight for the 49ers. And if you take off on a Friday, you don't land until Sunday. If you take off, at the standard evening time on a Friday, and then when you come back, Kyle Shanahan was joking, it's like a time machine. It must have been reading my Twitter because we talked about this last week. The 49ers will take off right after the game ends, or after all their duties are over. It's going to be Friday in Australia. The game is going to start at 10:30 a.m. Pacific, so say that they take off around 4 or 5 p.m. Sorry, 10:30 a.m. Australian time. They're not Pacific time. They are on the Pacific Ocean, but 10:30 a.m. Melbourne, Australia time. Say that the 49ers take off at 5 p.m. Melbourne time. They actually would land back in the Bay Area at about 2 p.m. So it's the time machine on the way back. You get those 3 hours back because you do cross the date line. Now, the NFL today, that closed the owners' meetings, did announce that there would be no Monday night doubleheaders anymore. Instead, they're going to spread out those extra primetime games to some select dates later in the calendar. It had initially been thought that maybe if there were 2 Monday night football games in week 2, that the 49ers and the Rams, since they both have to fly this long way back across the Pacific Ocean from Australia in week 1, maybe they would both get home Monday night football games in week 2 to maximize the amount of rest after the crazy flight back across the date line. But now that there's only going to be 1 Monday night football game, that is no longer on the table. Maybe one of the teams, the 49ers or the Rams, gets that Monday night game. Maybe the league throws the 49ers a bone and says, well, hey, since the Rams requested for you guys to fly all the way out here, the least we can do is give you an extra day of rest, and you can play the Monday night game in week 2. I think that would also fit because Levi's gets really, really hot in September, right? And it would be bad if the 49ers were sent on the road again in week 2 after going to Australia. So I think they have to host in week 2 for anything to be close to fair. But if they host, you don't want to play in the brutal September sunshine of Santa Clara, where we've seen how bad that can get. So I think the 49ers need a night game. I think they need a home game, and it needs to be a night game in week 2. And maybe the Monday night would be the most appropriate compromise, and it would give the 49ers an extra day since it was the Rams who requested to have them sent to Australia, banished all the way out to Australia for week 1. And I'm much more excited about this than Kyle Shanahan. He just wants to play football. There's that school of thought. I mentioned the multiple schools of thought. Jed York, I mean, he's looking at it from a business perspective. He is the owner of the team. He recognizes that, he wants the 49ers to be a big global brand, and this probably will help them in that effort. There are a lot of fans out in Australia of the 49ers. We're going to have 2 fan meetups. We're going to have one in Sydney. We're going to have one in Melbourne. And, when we checked on Thursday, there are already 151,000 people on the waiting list for tickets in Australia. Now, maybe even over 200,000. So this is big business for the NFL. This is big business for the 49ers. That's Jed York's purview. Kyle Shanahan's purview is one of football and making sure his team performs at the highest level possible. And that obviously is going to be put to the test after such a long trip to Australia. The 49ers will likely go on the earlier side. The Rams probably will head there later. They surgically striked last year when I think they played in Germany. They had a Europe game. And they won that Europe game, and they arrived like a day before it. They didn't really, they took care of all the sleep schedule stuff back home and then traveled in comfort, showed up in Europe, won a football game, got back on the plane to head to the U.S. And it might be 2 opposite approaches that we see from the Rams and from the 49ers. Phoenix treated me really well. This was one of the best meals. Wren and Wolf. Yes, a double smash burger, and then those are garlic truffle fries. They were unreal, and the burger itself was really good too. I mean, they've got an actual wolf in the place. This is downtown Phoenix. If you're ever going to a Suns game or if you're going to a Diamondbacks game, this place is probably a block away at most. And they have a really good breakfast menu, but I was there for lunch, and it was awesome. An elite burger found in that Phoenix area. More news, and we can go through a lot of this. Robert Saleh today spoke as part of the AFC Coaches Breakfast. That is the burger. That wasn't served at breakfast, unfortunately. We got to get this up from the AFC Coaches Breakfast. And, there had been some wonder if he would try to bring KJ Wright, now the 49ers head linebackers coach. He got the promotion with Johnny Holland moving to defensive run game coordinator. But there had been some question, would the 49ers lose KJ Wright, a young rising coaching star? Robert Saleh said it was an understanding from the beginning, off limits. It's always a good idea to maintain a good relationship with even your outgoing coaches. Bill Walsh was able to do that. But I think that Kyle Shanahan has generally done that. And in the case of Robert Saleh here, yesterday I was hanging out with all these guys at the party, and they're all in the same quadrant of the party. Adam Peters was there, Robert Saleh was there, Kyle Shanahan was obviously there. So there are strong relationships between all of these guys who at one point or the other have been in the 49ers building. And I think that there was a gentleman's agreement that the Titans with Robert Saleh wouldn't try to go pry KJ Wright away from San Francisco. Robert went on to say he's going to be a coordinator really quick. I could see him easily progressing the way DeMeco did. And this would not be the first time somebody has compared KJ Wright, former really good linebacker, to DeMeco Ryans, a former really good linebacker. He's got the same mindset. He's got the same respect from his players. KJ is going to be really good. And the 49ers did promote him. And they made a couple of really interesting promotions. Another one of them, and by the way, this is funny, Jim Harbaugh, working with Mike McDaniel has been awesome with a capital A. That is former 49ers run game coordinator and offensive coordinator Mike McDaniel. But take a look at this. We talk about promotions that I think people should be talking a little bit more about. KJ Wright, obviously, to linebackers coach is one of them, along with Johnny Holland, from linebackers coach to run game coordinator, to see the bigger picture, to focus on an area of need for the 49ers. But Joe Graves, I mean, the reason that you guys like this channel, I think, is because we go deeper into this than anyone else. And if you think so, you could just type yes into the comment section. I heard that comments help our algorithm, so I'm going to shamelessly try to help the algorithm and get this video going. We're wrapping up maybe our most successful month ever on the channel tonight. This is the final show of March, so it's a little bit of a celebration. We had a couple drinks at dinner, so it was all good right now. But it's a little bit of a celebration, and if you would like to partake in the celebration, just type something like a yes or like a little party symbol emoji in the comment section. That would help us with the algorithm as we delve deeper into this than anybody does. Nobody's talking about the Joe Graves promotion. Joe's been with the 49ers for several years. He's been an assistant O-line coach. He's been an assistant tight ends coach. Assistant quarterbacks coach. He has worked with tight ends in the past as well, too. But assistant O-line coach, assistant quarterbacks coach. Two very different jobs, but he has executed both well, and he has earned Kyle Shanahan's trust to the point where when the 49ers released their staff changes here the other day, it was Joe Graves who got the promotion to run game coordinator. The position was vacant because Brian Fleury, the former tight ends coach, had also been the run game coordinator. And Fleury obviously catapulted, fast track from that spot with the 49ers to the offensive coordinator job of the Seattle Seahawks. So to replace him, the 49ers have tapped Joe Graves. And Graves, with his background, it's fascinating to me that he's been at two different positions with the 49ers already, O-line and quarterback. And now he's going to be looking at the entire run game. As the O-line coach, assistant O-line coach, the Chris Foerster, who used to be the run game coordinator for the 49ers. Graves obviously developed an understanding of what Kyle Shanahan wants blocking wise from his starting five up front in the outside zone. And in all the other stuff the 49ers run, because gap scheme and power stuff has increasingly become a staple of what the 49ers run. So he obviously picked it up through there. But then I think as an assistant quarterbacks coach, Joe Graves developed a much bigger understanding of what the entire offense is trying to accomplish, and Kyle Shanahan loves that. Brian Fleury fast-tracked his way through the promotional ladder of the 49ers staff because he had coached every single position group on offense, essentially. He had coached on defense. He understood the big picture. Look at Raheem Morris, new 49ers defensive coordinator, and it is not an accident why. He's coached offense under Kyle Shanahan. He's coached defense in a Tampa 2 system. He's coached in a standard 3-4 system, a Fangio tree, Brandon Staley tree. He won a Super Bowl doing that with the Rams. He has done a little bit of everything, and Kyle Shanahan loves that big picture view. Kyle Shanahan brought in Matt Eberflus to help out with Raheem Morris, who's a 4-3 Tampa 2 type of guy, but he's been a head coach. He's been a defensive coordinator. Jack of all trades, he sees the big picture more than a position coach who is simply zoomed in on only his group. Shanahan's a big picture guy. He started his career as a defensive quality control coach in Tampa. That was at the very beginning. Raheem Morris was on that staff as well for the Buccaneers under John Gruden. As time has passed, Shanahan obviously has turned into one of the most respected offensive minds in the game. But because he understands both sides of the football and he sees the big picture, he wants his assistants to embrace that as well. And the fact that Joe Graves has risen up to this run game coordinator position means that he has earned Shanahan's trust. He's going to be a liaison of sorts in between Chris Foerster, the offensive line coach, and Kyle Shanahan, who's the main offensive coordinator here. Obviously, the 49ers also have Clay Kubiak designing plays, and he has the title of offensive coordinator, but Kyle Shanahan is the play caller. I think that this is fascinating on several levels. The 49ers need to be a lot better running the ball. And as you can see here, Shanahan was asked, how do you fix this? And the line at the bottom says a lot of schematic stuff that we do as coaches. So Shanahan obviously thinks that the 49ers can get better schematically in the run game. He thinks they can block better on the perimeter. He thinks they can keep Christian McCaffrey fresher. But above all else, he really trusts Joe Graves in this position. And, you know, nobody else is talking about this, so we will. This was a significant staff move that the 49ers made this week. Man, it's been a busy few days of the owners' meetings. It's been a hell of a month. It's been a fun month here on the channel. I mean, we could take a look at the before and after. And we'll only see the after on the depth chart. But you can see where the 49ers have added here. Everybody that is shaded in teal, and with a couple exceptions, there are a couple veteran pillars. that have gotten the yellow shade right away. But teal, those are free agent additions. For the time being, just for illustration's sake, I will shade Mike Evans' name, and I will shade Osa Adigazua's name in teal because he was a trade addition. So all of the teal, those are new players that the 49ers have brought in over the course of this past busy month on the channel. So you've got Evans, you've got Christian Kirk, you got Vidarian Lowe, Robert Jones, Brett Toth, 3 offensive linemen. So big investment there in that offensive line. They needed more depth, and I think they're still going to turn toward the NFL draft at the very least to look for more competition at guard. Maybe somebody that flexes to tackle once Trent Williams is done. Trent Williams' contract, that they've been making progress there over the course of the past week plus. Osa Odigizua, that was the big trade that happened during that first week of free agency. Dre Greenlaw, obviously, back in the fold. And Nate Hobbs, the defensive back. I've got some good intel on Nate Hobbs as well. Then, of course, Corliss Waitman, the new punter for the 49ers. So upgrades at many spots for the 49ers. Efficient spending for San Francisco. Hobbs, I think, probably fits that bill of efficient spending. He has signed a 1-year deal with the 49ers worth up to about $3.5 million. The 49ers actually discussed trading for Nate Hobbs over the past few seasons, but they obviously never consummated such a trade. Look at how Nate Hobbs first appeared on the 49ers radar, though. Do you guys remember the joint practices with the Raiders in Las Vegas back in 2023 before they went to Las Vegas for the Super Bowl later that year? Well, that's when Kyle Shanahan and company noticed Nate Hobbs. That's when they figured out, oh, we may want to train with this guy. We may want to trade for this guy. Of course, it never materialized, and then Hobbs ended up signing with the Green Bay Packers once he hit free agency, a deal worth up to $48 million worth up to $48 million for the 4 years of it. He was cut after one season, so the 49ers were able to get him for a deal worth up to $3.5 million. Much more of a bargain than the Green Bay Packers got on Nate Hobbs. Kyle Shanahan, I asked him, hey, can he fill your safety void? Because I think that the 49ers have some questions at safety between Mustafa Siegel and Jair Brown. And Shanahan said, I haven't really been thinking about that, but I do know that this is a good backup for every single corner position, including the nickelback position. Hobbs was better at nickel with the Raiders than he was playing outside with the Green Bay Packers. And at the rate that the 49ers got him, I think it's very emblematic of the bargains that they were able to strike over the course of this entire offseason. Now, speaking of bargains, the biggest bargain, I think undoubtedly, of this entire offseason was this guy. Wide receiver, somebody who's going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Let's go.
Somebody who is currently training hard. I don't know if that's Southern California or if it's somewhere back in Florida. I can't tell, but Mike Evans. I don't know who that is working with Mike Evans, but Mike Evans is there in the red shirt. Who is that working with him, Mike? Can you tell? I'm asking Mike or Taza, not Mike Evans. But that in the red shirt is Mike Evans working out at a compound where he has been videoed multiple times. Mike or Taza says he has no idea who that guy in the gray shirt is. But we know who Mike Evans is working out for the 49ers. We got DeMeco Ryans. Oh, Vic Tafer got a good video. Let's take a look at Vic and his video with DeMeco Ryans talking about Christian Kirk, the new partner in crime for Mike Evans. The 49ers have made it a point to say that they've got 2 grown men that they added in that receiver room. One is Mike Evans. One is Christian Kirk. And here is DeMeco Ryans talking about Kirk, who played for the Houston Texans this past season.
Great young man, really provided a lot to our locker room from a leadership standpoint of helping out. We had a lot of young receivers this past year. I thought Christian did a really good job of helping out those young guys. They're able to lean on him to gain some of his insight and the experience that he's had from being a pro for a while. He can still make a lot of plays for you. A guy who can really stretch the field, making plays, also can do it from the slot perspective of running some of the choice routes and winning in man coverage. So you're getting a really talented veteran guy who's a really good locker room leader as well.
So that was DeMeco Ryans. In case he didn't hear it all too well, it's really hard to capture good audio in that room, so don't blame that on Vic. But he was saying that Christian Kirk can still be a deep threat. And remember, the most mind-blowing stat of all, they put these GPS trackers in these players' shoulder pads, and they measure the top miles per hour times of the season. Christian Kirk, in one game alone, in that playoff game alone, when he was healthy against the Steelers, put up 3 times that would have been faster than any other time of any 49ers offensive ball carrier from 2025. The top 4 times, if you included those 3 with Christian Kirk, would have also included D. Winters on his pick 6 return against Indianapolis. He was flying on that pick 6 return. But, I mean, it's an indictment of the lack of speed that the 49ers had on the offensive side of the ball. They need more speed on the offensive side of the ball, and it just so happens that a 29-year-old Christian Kirk might be able to give it to them. Fascinating stuff. All right, 26 minutes into this thing. Let's answer some questions, and then let's wrap it up for the month. It has been a crazy month. Mike, I think we have, 3 million viewers this month? 3 million. 3 million in 1 month. Just a whole heck of a lot of hours watched. A lot of videos. Mike, if you have any stats that you want me to share from the month, I'd be happy to share them. But I am here to answer some of your questions. El Paso Niner says, hey, David, do you get a sense that Shanahan is ready to destroy the Rams and the rest of the NFL? With the Joe Graves promotion and realizing that the team seems to be going all in this year. I don't think they're, so all in always implies that you're putting all the chips in for this season and you're going to be screwed after that. I actually think, speaking of the Rams, that Les Snead, and maybe it was Sean McVay, but I think it was Les Snead this week, said, we like to go all in on the present and all in on the future at the same time. I think that's what the 49ers try to do. I think that the 49ers are trying to play the short and the long-term game simultaneously. You want to be really good, but you also want to be sustainable. And do I sense that there's a little bit of anger from Kyle Shanahan regarding this whole Australia thing? Yes. Does that make Shanahan want to win any more this year than other years? I think he's obsessed with winning and obsessed with football in any season. When the 49ers have been decently healthy, they've been the best team in the league. And that's been the case for years now. They just haven't been decently healthy over the past 2 seasons. A lot of injuries in 24, a lot of injuries in 2025. But when they had most of their guys available, they dominated. They statistically dominated the eventual Super Bowl champions, the Seattle Seahawks, on the road in 2025 to open the season. 2023, I thought the 49ers were the power of the league. Obviously, it didn't work out for them in the one-game scenario of the Super Bowl, but Shanahan has a track record of being very good and, along with Lynch, building a really good football team. The 49ers just have to stay healthy. That's the key here moving into 2026. 3,263,953 views in March. We have 298,306 watch hours in March. That is a combined 12,429 days worth of content watched in March. So round of applause to you, the viewers. You have consumed on this channel 12,429 days worth of content between all of you. Couldn't do it without you guys. Couldn't do it without the viewers. We've had a lot of fun this month. This is a good question from Henry, David, thanks for your work. So with the whole Aiyuk kerfuffle, does anyone know his health status and when he would be able to play? That's what I asked Jed York, because Jed seemed to imply that he wasn't healthy, which was news to us. But then I asked, what is he healthy or not? And then Jed said, I don't know. I have the videos there, so you guys know what I do in terms of all that. And that all remains TBD at this point. If he's not healthy, then they definitely won't be able to get any trade return for him before that option kicks in on September 1st. So it's a $24.9 million option, and we shall see. You guys know everything that I do. I don't know how many more questions we can possibly answer about this whole Aiyuk thing. I think it's actually really simple. You keep him around until you're forced not to if you're the 49ers, and you hope to get a return for him at some point. And if things dramatically turn around with his attitude, then, you know, I think the ship has probably already sailed, but you can never say never in this league. And the whole health thing, that throws another wrench into it. I just hate to speculate on stuff that we don't know. I did tell Margot about your first post. She was very happy about it. She says, thank you. She's thinking about starting her cooking channel now because of the very nice note that we got from you, Butterfly. So thanks a lot. You do think that Brandon Aiyuk might play for the 49ers? That'd be wild. Like, I'm not ruling it out. I think it'd be stupid to rule it out. I think people were stupid to rule out Jimmy Garoppolo returning to play for the 49ers in 2022, and that ended up being one of the best things that ever happened to San Francisco in this Shanahan era. I mean, Garoppolo played well after Trey Lance went down, and he built the bridge to Brock Purdy. It was huge for the 49ers. So it can happen, but it's unlikely, and that's all we know right now. So I'll be giving you guys the same updates, the consistent, truthful updates on a day-to-day basis. How does that sound? All right, it is time to pack it in for the month. It has been a lot of fun. Like I said, and like Mike showed you with the view count, we've had a great month. So thank you to all. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, leave your comment. We're moving on to April. It's going to be another fun one. The NFL draft is toward the end of it, but this March was monumental. Thank you to all the viewers. I made it home safely from Phoenix. Owners' meetings in the books. Let's turn the page to April 1st. Don't get fooled tomorrow. It is April Fool's. Just a little early warning. Thanks again, everybody. We will talk to you soon.